shaky. You know, he can either go super well or super bad. That's the way I see it. You see some openings sometimes. You know, I remember a game in the group stage. They opened with Pugna into anti-mage. You know, how often do you see that? It can only be Cloud9. So I'm really looking forward to see how they adapted, because they did change a lot of things during the group stage.
Yeah.
The way they drafted was they went back to what they used to play, Beastmaster and Farah, very mobile heroes, favoring vision. You know, they will know that. And let's see how they're going to approach the main event. I'm pretty sure it's going to be part of their drafting.
You had like one of the more unusual things about Cloud9 is they're one of the only teams, in fact, the only team to this extent, that favors hardlane dual lanes over hardlane solos. They've run hardlane dual lanes 10 times in their 14 games in this tournament, and they've shown 15 different heroes in those lanes. So it gives them a lot of flexibility in terms of what they draft.
It's quite hard to predict the way they're going to lane.
I think they have to break CDEC out of their script, though. I think CDEC, they pretty much, as you said, they ran the same thing with different heroes every single one of their games in the group stage.
I think they already made one of the biggest mistakes possible, though, arguably, like giving Aggressive his gyrocopter. I think he's the one player at TI I would not want to give gyrocopter. But C9, let's see what they actually bring out with that.
Yeah, it's just a static thing right now. 72nd time it's been picked now throughout the games, and easily the most picked.
Right. But it goes back to predictability, though. I really do. I felt like C9 coming into this draft, we're going to give CDEC a lot of those heroes that they seem so locked in on, just to assure themselves that they're going to play the same tempo.
Oh.
And there it is.
We talked about it before.
That's a very good sign for
And the Wisp is in.
Yeah, they can definitely fight really well around that. I mean, No-Tail will push this hero to the limit, and he will often bait the enemy, just waiting very long to heal up his ally, and then last second just turn around the fight.
Interestingly, Alan, not one of the most popular picks we've had, only 17. So.
No, but it really is important, because Cloud9 have recently, and really in the last 6 months, been a very weak early game team. They only get first bloods in 26% of their matches, which is by far the lowest of any team here, and it's only 5 out of 14 so far at this TI.
Slightly less serious question. Do we need to go and get our sleeping bags from the hotel right now, or?
Oh my goodness.
It could be. It could be a long match.
It could be a very long match.
These guys have gone late a lot recently.
Yeah. C9's first series in the group stage was 2 games that were both, I believe, above 1 hour. I was casting it alongside Toby, and it was it was exciting.
97 minutes as well, second game.
Yes.
The biggest weakness of Cloud9, at least in my opinion, is that sometimes they struggle to end the game when they can, or to actually push higher on. That's why I also do the games last. I want to highlight the Bane pick. I think it's a great pickup with Wisp. It works very well together for many reasons. So when you play Wisp, there are 2 ways of playing Wisp. Obviously, you want to play the Wisp later on in the game that split pushes and whatnot, but early on, he's a great fighter. You know, a Wisp that rotates, you know, you go for a dive and then suddenly Wisp TPs in, heals the guy up, and then they turn. You know, stuff like this. Wisp is a great ganker. Obviously, he doesn't gank by himself. He ganks with the help of the other hero he's linking, but he's a great ganker. And getting a Bane is one of the supports that has the best stats in the game. I think it's probably the support that has the best stats. He has 22 in all stats. Yeah. He's very tanky. He has good movement speed. He's very strong at fighting early on. So he's a great duo with Wisp in the laning phase and also later, because he can always, he's one of those supports that can set up for a relocate. You know, with the Fiend's Grip and the Sleep, it's great setup for relocate. So I think Bane Wisp is probably, to my understanding, the best support duo with Wisp.
Yeah, and I'm glad you went there, because that's exactly the way that No-Tail approaches this hero. You'll see a lot of even pro players, high-level pros, kind of sit back on that Wisp until they hit level 6. You will never see that from Johan. He is going to look to pressure lanes with this hero, and I think that shores up a lot of what's been problematic for C9.
They're going to force CDEC to fight very early, and with Wisp and Bane, it's very scary to fight those heroes. I don't think any kind of supports can actually do that. So CDEC are going to have, they need strong lanes right now. Bounty Hunter is fine, but I think it can backfire.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Bane, as you mentioned, there is a really key component for C9, because Mizra's positioning on that hero is phenomenal. However, there's a bounty hunter on the enemy team, so he could maybe track, and Shuritas bouncing around, you can easily cancel the Fiend's Grip. So I think Vision is the name of the game here, and CDEC, how they play it is going to be very important.
I completely trust Matt on everything he says about Bane. Back when he was on Sigma, it was a Sigma special. Bane and Mirana.
Like really, Bane Wisp is a great combo. Like a Bane that gets tethered by the Wisp is literally unstoppable early on. I'm talking first levels, like literally. The first 3 levels of, like the first 5 minutes of the game are going to be very scary for CDEC. That's how I feel. They're going to have very strong lane C9, and he's a great dual laner, Bane. You know, like you can, like Bane Lina is extremely good on the offensive, Bane bottom, as you mentioned, And C9, they've been playing that. They play those heroes. And the Bane Nina, for example, it's them. You know, I remember, maybe I was streaming them or it wasn't official, I don't remember. They used to play that versus us, this Bane Nina combo. And it's extremely strong.
I think that Gyrocopter's win rate has decreased.
I don't think they ran a draft like this.
He initially started off above 60 and has decreased, and I think the majority of the time that people have won against him, it's through anti-DK. Naga, Sleep, Isolation,
Dragonite's a fun hero, and Io's a no-tail hero, but
we just haven't
still 50. They haven't played this draft.
71 picks. It was absurd.
It seems like they want like really difficult to kill heroes.
It was even higher. Like he started out like N1.
Yes, yeah, he did.
So he did have a very impressive start.
CDEC is a lot of they get them lead up. I'm surprised.
For a while, so that's why we see these, you know.
And
this is what EG banned versus them.
Yeah,
No,
I
EG
love this
picked the
DK
Lina.
This is, people forget,
I don't know about
Fana
this.
was one of the guys who revolutionized
What do you think of the
this draft.
draft?
I mean, he started going mech first. On
I think
DK.
it's good
He's
for
a very,
CDEC so far.
A very unique mid player anyway.
I think the draft looks pretty good for CDEC so far.
For a two-position player, especially in today's meta. And this Dragonite fits what he wants to do.
Seems like a lot of it comes down to the IO.
Makes him
and how
one
much
of
they
the
get
top
out
players in the world right now, and it's always
lane.
been like this, you know.
Because Dragonite's going to lose the lead on its own.
I'm used to
5
like,
seconds.
And Gyro
remaining.
can bully like anyone.
Won something big. I mean, at TI, he never placed really high, although he deserves to. He has the level of the players that won TI, the mid players. He's extremely skilled, and he's a team player, and that's very rare.
Yeah.
You know, having both this team play attitude and the skill of a solo mid player that has his own ego, which is important in Dota, it's very rare. He's one of those players that can
Probably
really
need to
shine
move
in
this
the
a
best
bit
of
closer
this.
to your mouth.
I really like the Dragonite pickup. I think they can go two different ways. One is like just super sustain with DK in the front line with Tether, and also it's great for setting up relocate ganks.
They're going to set up ganks, like for sure. Every game, I cast 5 of their series during the group stage, so I'm self-proclaimed C9 expert by now. He's going to go Shadow Blade, like almost guaranteed.
I have a good
Even
point to
against
bring
the
up.
Bounty Hunter, I think he will still opt for that item. There's a chance, of course, to go BK.
Yeah, okay.
And here comes the Envy Razor, and this is a.
I'll let you
like
bring
this
it up.
setup a lot again. I'm repeating myself
just
at
ask
this
me
point,
about the
but
draft.
you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
the games that we saw CDEC really get
I'll just intro it,
a
and then
little
I'll
bit in
just ask
trouble
you your
was
thoughts
against
on the
DG,
draft straight after.
where that laning
Go to your
phase
hype
went
intro,
against
dude.
them, where they couldn't get cheeky off to
get
that
that
great
meme.
aggressive start in lane, and so aggressive did okay in his lanes, but all of
Only
a sudden, if
10
the other lanes
seconds.
are losing, those TP ganks aren't there. And I think that this Razor and DK are really going to put
5
pressure on the
seconds
other
remaining.
lanes.
This is the draft I like the most so far. Like from all the drafts we've seen, I think it's super solid and it's
Reserve
very scary.
time.
Razor also, like it supports what we've been saying with the rotations early on, because he's one of the safe laners that doesn't need any help. He's gonna crush whoever faces him on the lane, although he get like except if he gets ganks, that's different. But one-on-one versus any off laner, he's gonna do super well, as if there were supports that helped him. It's the same result. So Bane is gonna be able to roam as much as he wants, and same goes for the Wisp. They're gonna have to help the DK.
Yeah, it's very important as well that they did ban out the Broodmother there, because if they didn't do that, you wouldn't have that guarantee, because C9, they're looking to win the lanes pretty statically, get up the items, level 6 on Wisp, and then start taking over the game.
Does this also add into what you were all saying earlier on, which is that CDEC are very standard in terms of the way they're going to... There's nothing spectacular about the way they've drafted so far through the groups, and this would back that up. It's very meta right now, whereas EG's, Cloud9's is all over the place.
Definitely. It's very standard.
Only 10
from Cloud9.
seconds.
And I mean, I think that's what we all expected going in. The one thing I will say, I mean,
5
Cloud9
seconds.
fans won't like this, but it's got to be mentioned, is this lineup is also sort of typical of some of the problems that C9 have had
Reserve
closing
time.
out games.
Okay, do you know what? I'm okay with that. I thought you were going to mention the second place or something.
Oh, come on. No, I mean, part of the problem, Envy plays a magnificent Razor. He farms on the hero better than probably anybody outside of Arteezy, but Razor is a hero that, I mean, if you're not ending the game by 35, 40 minutes, he can really get passed by even a lone core Gyro in the late game.
I mean, that's why they have the DK, though. I think I've seen them end games in less than 25 minutes with DK. So I think it really makes up for that lack of pushing high ground.
What's great with this lineup is that it could be a global lineup, like just, you know, pushing towers, ganking people with DK Shadowblade, Bane, Wisp relocate, that relocates the Razor, and the Razor keeps on farming. It can be a pushing lineup, as you said. DK with the Razor Axe, the pushing power is actually insane. This lineup is very stable. They can do whatever they want, basically. They can adapt to CDEC.
Yeah, and like DK Razor work very well together, because late game they're not irrelevant. They both are really strong, and their pushing power for high ground at 35-40 minutes is terrifying.
Yep.
So they work well, and Envy has spammed Razor so many games.
Especially with the Wisp behind. But Wisp is going to make it even easier to push.
I mean, overall, guys, I just want to get their overall sense. I think C9 has done what they needed to do with this draft. They've gotten a draft that is going to allow them to throw CDEC off their script. CDEC at this point in the game, unless something crazy happens with the lane, they're going to have to play with a map disadvantage, and that's not something something we've seen from them.
CDEC has an opening right now in the mid lane. If it's a Lina support, or if they get another midder that's quite Lina mid and another like hero support that's aggressive, they can actually destroy that DK. Sure, Whis is going to try to help, but they have so much burst damage with the Shuriken toss and the Lina that even the Wisp, you know, tethering in could be the one dying. That's quite interesting as well. Wow. You know, this turns into, it could be either global, like out farming CDEC, or just go for the full push with Nature's Prophet. I really like, C9 have two super solid game plans that are the opposite right now.
I think it's those two things actually. You go for the ganks, if you get them, then it's immediately the full push, as you said. So that's sort of a strength here.
I think it's a very, very solid pick from Bone7 and the whole C9 like team. Quite impressive drafting.
No, I mean, this to me is why this series was maybe the most compelling on paper to me in the first round. Just the sort of polar opposites. One team executing, playing that script so well, and the other team just doing everything they can to throw them off their game.
Yeah.
What are we going to see here for the final one?
Depends if Lina is support or mid. But as you guys said, we've seen them run the Lina mid.
Yeah, Shiki has played that mid before.
Yeah. So it is a Lina.
Winter Wyvern picked for the 30th time with a 0.34 or 34.5% win rate, so not been that particularly successful so far.
I think it's all going to be about the mid lane and the rune fights early on.
Okay, all right.
I think Winter Wyvern is also a hero that some players just shine on so hard. Like Soneko, for example, is a player that you just cannot give that hero, whereas some other teams are trying to copy it and it doesn't work that well. So we'll see how well CDEC can execute this. They have really good defensive though, but it's kind of risky to run a gyro core like this.
Okay, very nice. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We are almost ready to go then for our first game in the second series of the day. It is the quarterfinals of the upper bracket, and please do enjoy this one. It's going to be mega. CDEC versus C9 is on its way.
5 seconds.
Greetings and salutations, fans. It's time for CDEC. This is Cloud9. I'm LD. I'm joined here by Blitz. Blitz, it's your first ever cast at the International. Are you hyped, man? Are you excited?
I am so excited to be here, especially for this game.
Reminder,
both
the
lineups.
goal of this game is to win.
This is just going to be an aggressive game, I feel. This is not one where either team is going to play particularly passive.
Throwing it out there.
And you look at how the teams came into this match. CDEC, they had a really strong run in Group B. I think caught a lot of teams off guard. They put up 2 2-0 wins on, I think it was day 3 of the group stage. With that, guaranteed themselves top 4. Going into that final day of the group stage, it felt like EG had maybe figured them out a bit. They 2-0'd them. They were prepared for all their picks, and it seems that's where the analysts sit coming into this draft, that C9 just know what CDEC like to do. I cast a lot of the CDEC games, and this is their bread and butter. The mid Lina, the gyrocopter for aggressive, the kind of stable off-laner in the Clockwork, and then the playmaking, mobile, disruptive support here in the Bounty Hunter. So looking at the draft, Cloud9 doing something very different. CDEC doing their stock and standard lineup. Do you agree with the analysts? Do you think that they've just been kind of out-drafted and outmaneuvered here in Game 1?
I don't think so, because I think both teams are pretty satisfied with the type of draft that they got. CDEC is the type of team, you described it best, they just play solid standard Dota. They don't really throw anything too wild at you. They just win their lanes, they focus on winning team fights. And I think what happened in the EG series more than anything is, you kind of saw the weakness in CDEC is that they were a little bit too afraid to go for anything, but Bone7 is going to try to snipe the courier. It's not in range though.
Oh, these are the next level strats that we expect from Cloud9. Oh, he's got it. One more shot and down it goes. Bone7 suicide in the enemy fountain. He'll spend his gold. Knowing Cloud9, we expect something different from this team. You go back to the International 4. This is the team that ran the Pylite roaming bounty hunter with the Meepo, and I think got 4 courier snipes in one game. Out of nowhere, Meepo would just poof all over enemy heroes. Well, they found a new way to get started on the right foot here.
That was so smart. They knew the bounty rune would go onto the Lina. She was going to bury herself some regen. And you deny her some regen, and I mean, that was the most Cloud9 play I've seen out of Cloud9 plays.
That really is. That only works once, I guess, against this team. They see the Nature's Prophet pick again, and teams will be prepared, but they get off to a hot start here in game one. So let's run through our lane splits. Looking at the off lane right now, it is Garter moving in as the support bounty hunter. You decide to pressure the enemy safe lane for now. Q will be on the Wyvern. He's generally the lane support for the team, and Aggressive goes into the offensive, I'll call it a dual lane, because I don't think Garter necessarily stays here.
Is being
this lane, obviously, CDEC looking to pull out on top, and already Bone7 is getting driven back quite a bit.
Yeah, and something I do want to point out about C9's draft
Radiant's
is that you want to just pay attention to
fire.
how tanky they are. I feel like that's the counter to Bounty Hunter more than anything, is that if a Bounty Hunter just continues to track your team, but everybody's super tanky, what will it lead to if you don't actually get any kills? And that's why I feel that C9 have gone for such an incredibly defensive draft. Like Bad has mentioned, you've got Misery playing a really tanky support. You've got the IO plus anybody combination. Razor, who's one of the best at tanking up in the late game with his unstable current, and you're generally just going to build towards being a little bit more tanky rather than going for farm-oriented.
It's kind of a different way to do the same thing that EG did with the Treant Protector, where whenever the Bounty Hunter shows his face, you just living armor that hero, tough to get a kill from there. In this case, they don't have that global heal, but they have just tanky heroes, like you said, so it kind of accomplishes the same thing in the end here. Looking at the mid lane, so far, Shiki not really dominating this matchup. The Dragon Knight of Fada getting his CS, and this is because the Bounty Hunter hasn't really been mid. Garter's going to make his first move towards that lane, but he's been under no pressure. They've seen the Bounty bottom, and a lane that normally Alina looks to dominate is not really being dominated at all.
I think part of it is just because he got his courier sniped, he can't play as aggressively as he wants to because he's going to run through regen faster. If you notice, he's already done with all of his regen, and he still can't quite get his bottle yet. I think he's pretty afraid of the next level Bone7 snipe number 2, so he's playing back a little. And
so I guess at this point you wait for 3 minutes. You just don't even let that courier leave the base.
Yeah, but if you notice in this mid lane, Garter's going for the exact same thing, trying to even this out, and Cloud9
are ready for this. We've seen a lot of Bounty Hunter courier snipes, and he's just going to hang back. They may even ferry the items out here with the Nature's Prophet of Bone7. Otherwise, perhaps they just wait until they can upgrade it. Now hits 3 minutes, and well, he's going to continue going all the way back. In fact, the courier's now headed to the well, so nothing coming out just yet.
Yeah, and this is so smart by both teams because they realize what just happened in the very beginning. I feel like they're even more tentative.
It must throw them off so much to lose the courier like that. It's one thing for it to get sniped in the more normal way, but just losing it with that initial salve, it's hard not to have that throw you off your game. But I will say, having seen quite a few CDEC games, this team has been down to some really strong teams. They were down to Vici Gaming in the group stage in one of their games. By 5,000 gold, they were getting outplayed all over the map, and they never lost their composure. Despite not being a well-known team on the big stage, they have shown that they can deal with the pressure. So looking at their farm so far, good start for the Gyrocopter here up in the bottom lane. Aggressive already 23 and 12, 24 and 13 now, and the Lina over towards mid of Shiki, also getting this farm. So their cores are farming pretty well.
Yeah, and they're doing a really good job right now because Bone7 isn't even willing to go to that bottom lane anymore because he realizes if that Gyrocopter decides to just run at him, he can't really do too much. And so C9 supports, a lot of this game depends on Misery. He has to apply the early game pressure. Yes, C9 have a really good 5-man lineup, but you have to get there at a decent pace.
Middle tower
when it comes to
attacked.
CS right now, they are losing, and at the same time, the Winter Wyvern is stacking up the Ancient Kamet. This is what I'm talking about. CDEC just do all the little things correctly.
And Garter is going to scout out Misery here. Only level 2, not a whole lot of kill potential. Looks like they wanted to maybe put a bit of pressure on the Lina mid, but they won't find the opening. And of course, for Cloud9, it's a very unusual off lane they've been running. The Eternal Envy Razor in conjunction with a Big Daddy IO. But so far, you're up against the Clockwork, and as expected, they are getting more or less free farm up here on the top side of the map.
Bottom tower under fire.
Yeah, the Razor is able to pretty much zone out XP by himself. But the problem is the Clockwork is just going to soak up XP naturally,
Dire's top tower
the
is
Nature's
being
Prophet
attacked.
can't really stand there. The Gyrocopter's kill power is so much higher than the Razor's, so he doesn't need a support to stand with him, and he's playing so aggressively in this bottom lane right now, and that tower's already down to half HP.
Yeah, and if you're Cloud9, if you watch the replays, you really have to mine Aggressive's movement. If he disappears from this bottom lane for even 10 seconds, they got to be careful on the other sides of the map. This guy, I think more than any player in the tournament, likes to rotate off his lane and go for early ganks, be it through a smoke or even a TP gank. He's really wanting to get his level 6 here. We'll have it soon. Misery hugging the tower for now, along with Bone7. But these are two fairly squishy heroes, especially the Nature's Prophet. No boots just yet.
Yeah, and Fada
they're looking for the opening.
TP at the same time.
But they are scouted out here. There's the ward in the lane about to expire. It's seeing all three at this point, I think, is maybe not Garter, but definitely the other two. And Misery's just going to be the one up in front.
with that Sentry Ward down, they do see Garter, and they don't want to really overcommit for anything because the TP support can come. The Razor has one on him. Fada's about to deliver himself one. And I think they want CDEC to overcommit for this tower, and CDEC's just going to back off, and I think this is the correct idea because it's only a tier 1 short lane tower. It's not as important as a mid lane tower is for control.
So the game fairly slow so far. Normally at this point, CDEC are diving towers and going for multiple kills, but the ward has disappeared in this bottom lane. Gyrocopter is now level 6. Cloud9 really have to be careful here. Calldown can come aggressive. Looks like he wants to go for this one. There's the Calldown. Should connect on Misery. Can he get the self denied? No chance. Tries for the Brain Sap. But first blood will go to CDEC. In the end, this is just standard CDEC Dota. Shiki even rotating in, though. He wasn't able to find anything in time, so... A big commitment there. They don't take an objective, and Fada's going to take this opportunity to apply a bit of pressure back in mid lane. Pops the ultimate, already hit level 7, and they're diving. They're expecting a TP to come in, and they actually saw Shiki arriving. Not sure if they have the burst damage. Big Daddy may get Laguna here, almost dead. It's not quite enough damage. No hookshot mana from XZ after the TP, so Cloud9 made out a big ultimate and continue to pressure this tower. In fact, they're going back in. XZ taking the Dragon Tail. He needs some backup here. Well-placed Cogs, pushing Fada away, and Cloud9 forced to retreat for now. Both teams, 6-7 heroes just descending upon this middle lane. Even the Winter Wyvern getting into the action, but can't quite finish off the Dragon Knight. And it leaves Eternal Envy happily farming the top lane and aggressive. Surprisingly not rotating, but that is, of course, due to the cooldown being on cooldown. Doesn't have a TP scroll. Very rare that he won't in the laning stage.
I think he just realizes that his presence there wouldn't make too much of a difference. CDEC are going to have a hard time initiating on this, especially when their Clockwork doesn't have mana like that. He no longer has a TP available to him. It was more of a defensive measure. They just didn't want C9 to overcommit, but you saw the strength of C9's lineup right there against the Bounty Hunter. The Bounty Hunter walks in, you just get repelled by the natural tankiness of the Dragon Knight who can frontline, and he has so much support behind him.
Yeah, of course, he's being overcharged. He's getting the tether heal from Big Daddy. He's got lots of ways to keep himself in fighting shape. We'll have a pause here from CDEC. And as you mentioned, they have been stacking up the Ancients a little bit. Looks like currently just the double stack. Haven't invested too much in this. And I'm not sure if we caught it, but Aggressive actually apparently did use his TP, and not sure if it got canceled or if he just canceled it. So that's why he didn't have one earlier. But back to the bottom lane. He continues to put the pressure on here. And it seems nobody from Cloud9 is particularly eager to lane against this, but that is going to give a free tower. And as soon as this tower falls, you could expect this guy will be on the move. Cloud9, look for them to be ready with their own TPs. Currently, I'm counting 5. Every single hero prepared to counter gank, prepared to support the team should the tower dives come.
Right now, CDEC, I feel like this is their type of game that they want to play. The pace of the game is pretty slow. The Gyrocopter is dominating in CS, and they're stacking Ancients, and Cloud9 isn't, so I think they're going to be pretty satisfied with this, but C9 going for the pretty typical play. They're going to go for this top tier 1 tower with the use of the smoke. It's not really meant to catch out anybody. It's kind of one of those gimme plays. If you get somebody, fantastic. If you don't, you're still at the tower so quickly that there's no time to respond.
And you're showing 4 heroes, which means they have to go to the tier 2 or smoke their own way in, or they risk giving up kills.
Exactly, and CDEC don't have the best heroes at counter pushing, and so I think they just have to give this up, continue to go for the stacks, and look for the pickoffs if they can.
They want mid. They see Bone 7. The stun's going to come through. They follow it up with the Laguna Blade. He barely gets up. Then the hook is going to prevent a counter initiation for Misery. And now Q joins the fray. Shiki kept alive for now, not quite low enough. Misery's self-sleep isn't going to be sufficient. Here's the call down. The backstab from Aggressive, rushing in on Fada. Chews through him with the Rocket Barrage, and now looks for Eternal Envy. He's up to 100 stolen damage, but he can't deal with the magic punishment of Aggressive. The man from behind finds a couple, make it 5-1 as CDEC continue to press in, but a well-placed sprout by Bone 7 will blunt the offensive for now. They didn't end up losing the tower mid, and good news for Cloud9, but they are going to lose a bit of their offensive firepower. The Dragon Knight out on cooldown, and Aggressive, he loves these early fights. If you're going to try to take it, he'll be there.
The Gyrocopter is so strong for that. I don't actually think there's any other carry that can do what Gyrocopter does. You have to anticipate the Rocket Barrage damage is just so insanely high in the early game. And Dragon Knight, yeah, you've got a lot of armor, but pre-BKB, you're not going to do too much to affect that. Same with the Razor. Eternal Envy, he doesn't have his mech yet. And I think C9, that was a little bit too much of a forced fight. Neither of the supports were there in position to help out any of the cores. And I think they were like, okay, we can go into this. There's not a lot of mana, but Rocket Barrage actually doesn't cost too much at all.
And they are on the smoke now. XZ and Shiki moving as a tandem towards the bottom side of the map. They may get eyes on Eternal Envy, who's not all that tanky yet. He doesn't actually have the mech complete. He's got a lot of armor, but that may not help him. If this hook connects, and it will. It's a bullseye. Eternal Envy trapped within the cogs. No relocate available yet, and they blast him away. Cheeky strikes again, and they look for more. Misery trapped in the woods, trying to retreat out. Calldowns at the ready, but Cloud9 a bit too close to that tier 2 tower. So CDEC. And this is really the thing about this team is, yes, they're aggressive, but they're rarely just foolishly or suicidally aggressive. They know that if they dive that tier 2, 3, 4 Cloud9 heroes may show up and they may overextend. So they do back it off. They slow the game down.
Taking damage.
I do want to point out as well, Blitz, that this is something CDEC has been really disciplined about, is trying to get the economy advantage with Ancients. They've Sentry blocked the Radiant Ancients. Meanwhile, as you pointed out earlier, they've been stacking their own. I believe it's now a quad stack. And they are going to start looking to farm that up with Aggressive. So it seems like they can just pull ahead and farm here, even if they slow down the pace.
Yeah, and that's what I like about CDEC right now, is they could have just gone for the farm, but they continue to apply the pressure. And C9, their lineup is meant to go for the 5-man fights, and every single time you go for that Razor kill before he gets his mech, it just slows it down further and further. And C9 right now, they don't have the best catch ability either. You've got Fada, who's got the Dragon form, but No-Tail isn't quite level 6, so the relocate isn't going to come, and so you just kind of have to headlong run at them, and C9 don't have the best lineup for that either.
And you're running into Calldown, you're running into the Cogs, you're running into the Wyvern ultimate as well. That's something we didn't really talk about, is how good a Wyvern can be this game with a Wisp on the field. One of the reasons why I feel like Wisp had fallen off over the past couple months, but it's CDEC's turn to smoke. Cloud9's was a bit of a fail. XC looking for the initiation here. Big Daddy off in the trees. Rocket's going to come through. They get eyes on him and they hook him in immediately. Battery sold, and there's the track. That's a 4-hero track takedown. And now they're called out on 2. What a Winter's Curse from Q. Demolishes 2 more. CDEC rampaging through the Cloud9 side of the map.
Middle tower is being attacked.
And there's no split push. There's a Nature's Prophet in this game. There's an IO. And they are fighting 5v5 and getting crushed.
They're just so under-leveled right now. If you take a look at the IO, only level 5. The Nature's Prophet is in a similar situation.
Bottom tower is being
C9,
attacked.
they want to try to play defensive Dota, but they can't really hold that tier 1 anymore. They just don't have the levels to battle. They've got 3 heroes on their lineup, 12 minutes in, that aren't even level 6 right now. And just taking a look at the other side, CDEC have done such a good job. They've got the track up on the Bounty Hunter now. Q did have the Winner's Curse up, and every single fight from here on out is experience-based because they don't have any sort of major tier items. There's no mech on Eternal Envy yet, and so it's pretty much going to come down to the experience, and CDEC just shattered them when it comes to that.
So what's your play beyond that? You mentioned they don't really have initiation. Do you want to see like a Blink Dagger on Dragon Knight? We've seen this from Empire's Garter. Will get caught off in the Radiant Woods and finished off, but I mean, what's the solution to that particular problem?
I think you need to get some items onto the C9 heroes, like Eternal Envy has the mech now, so they can start to go for the push. Once you've got level 6 on both your supports, you can probably start to take fights. That's a pretty big game changer, and the Dragon Knight getting a Blink Dagger or some sort of tanky item like a BKB would probably be what they look for, but I think it's going to be smokes that open up the game for them and relocates. But CDEC are well aware of that, and they're just playing tight, close Dota. Like, they're going for the stacks, they're not really showing themselves on the map, and they're just not really giving C9 a lot of opportunities to open up the map.
Yeah, when it comes to the smokes here, I'm seeing none in the hero inventories, none on the current, and there's only one in the shop. Then Cloud9 are going to be out of smokes for some time, so this is going to limit their ability to use them to their advantage as CDEC moves 3 down towards the bottom lane. Only giving up the 1 tower this game, and I think it's also worth mentioning, it wasn't really discussed in the draft, CDEC is one of the few teams that has really preferred the Dire side. This time around, they don't have the best Roshan lineup, but I wouldn't be surprised if they pick up a medallion and start looking towards that objective if they can find a good fight.
I think it was...
Oh, they're relocating. Here they go. Onto the bottom lane. Aggressive trapped out to start the fight. Now the static lane coming through, but he runs, and now he's going to turn with the call down again, the Winter's Curse, and they're running into it with Eternal Envy. He does have the mech. He retreats out for now. Aggressive hiding in the trees as the hook comes through. XC tries to hold Fada in place. They do have the track on him, but he's a rather tanky fellow, and I don't think they quite have the firepower to bring him down. Instead, they look for Misery. Already used the brain set. Laguna to end him, getting a little bit outflanked here. CDEC, again, the ones finding the kills, and they're going to bail out on that as Bone 7 TPs towards top. Looks like it could have been a decent fight for C9.
There's just not enough disables on the side of C9. Right now, they're getting kited around. The mobility of the gyrocopter just destroyed them in that fight. The fact that he was able to get away after all of that, and CDEC walk away with the track kill is pretty absurd to me right now. And C9's lineup was developed to go for 5-man fights. They have incredibly tanky heroes. You've got Bone 7 who can split push, force C9 to kind of turtle into their base and open up the map, but nobody from CDEC is fighting right now. They continue to play within their jungle, within their ancient camps, and whenever they take a fight, you notice that all 5 are willing to get into a fight.
And it's going to be tough to keep up in the farm department. The Ancients have not been stacked at all this game. Eternal Envy's gone early mech. We haven't seen a Midas on the Dragon Knight, which isn't really a popular build anymore. Used to see it once in a while. And we're not seeing a Prophet Midas for Bone 7, so it's going to be just farming. It seems like a difficult way to get back in the game. And do you, let's say they are able to catch up and farm. At that point, do you feel like Cloud9 can match up against CDEC later on in the game, or do you give either team a late game edge in that department?
I think CDEC, once they get items like the Aghanim Scepter and the level 1601 at top, Misery's going to get initiated on as Bone 7 comes in, but Misery is a long way from the rest of his team, but everybody's rotating over now.
Here they go, aggressive, trying to finish off Misery. They don't get the track kill. He's healed up by the mech of Eternal Envy, and now the chase is on. Look for the Winter's Curse, though. The relocate's going to bring them even farther forward. The Winter's Curse goes onto Eternal Envy, who tags Laguna. He's already used the mech. He gets splatted onto the ground, blown up by the forces of CDEC. They even managed to keep aggressive alive, and now they look for more. The Yule Scepter thrown out as Big Daddy will relocate back to where he once came from. And they're waiting for him. They're just laying into C9 and collecting kill after kill after kill. There just doesn't seem to be a silver lining this game.
It's just the amount of farm that Aggressive has right now. That SNY phase boots allows them to stay ahead of the C9 heroes. Not enough lockdown on their team. You can't really commit on the Bane there. Once the Bane has 200 HP, he's your main form of disable. You can't fight anymore. You can't chase anybody down. And C9, they were just barely not able to kill that Clockwork, and Aggressive gets healed up. And the turnaround potential for CDEC is so high right now, and you can't take these fights because of the track factor. Every single one of these fights that you take and lose, you're just allowing CDEC to just create this giant chasm where I don't really know how they get back into the game. They don't have a Midas on any of their cores. It's not really coming too soon for anybody. The Nature's Prophet will have it at 20 minutes, but that's not something you want to see, especially because it just delays whatever items he brings to the table. Midas is not a fighting item, LD, and I feel like this is Bone 7 saying, okay, we can't get into fights anymore. I'll just do what I can to drag this late.
And it's a really late Midas as well for Nature's Prophet. Considering they start the game with a Courier Snipe, we're looking at 19 to 20 minutes here. And then he's got to actually make the Midas pay off. So I think, like you said, it really signifies the Cloud9 mindset right now. We just can't really win fights. We need a little bit of late game insurance. We'll have to see. Now, normally Cloud9 is one of the teams that they will look towards Roche, even if it's a risky play, and even if they're Radiant, even if they don't have the map control. But can this lineup even consider that type of possibility?
Yeah, I mean, both teams can. You've got the Clockwork who's gone for the Medallion, and something I was going to note is that CDEC really put a priority in their itemization, if they're on the dire side, to go for the Roshan. Like, you see this Clockwork go for a Medallion of Courage. How often do you see that? We saw their Broodmother player get one as well when they were on the dire side, just so that they could go for the Roshan.
Yeah, it was XC then too.
Yeah, exactly. CDEC, they realized that's the safest objective on the map when you're on the dire side, so why not go for that?
And they even value the Dire over the Radiant in most cases. Like, I've seen this team actually first pick Dire, which back in the day used to be very common, but in this patch, it's almost always first pick, and once in a while teams will choose Radiant. They're going to begin their siege now. Shiki has a haste rune bottled up on the lead. He's got the level 2 Laguna Blade as well. And Cloud9 on the smoke, wrapping around to the north side. Going to be a tough fight to go into here with Q available to bail out Aggressive. They swing around through the river, look for the opening. CDEC backing off. Shiki may even walk into them. It almost looked like he was trying to reveal something, but didn't quite get any vision. Fada still hanging out near the tower. Both teams feeling like the other team might be baiting a bit here. And Cloud9, their smoke wearing off soon. They've got about 30 seconds tops.
Radiant's bottom tower
still not finding the opening. And CDEC gonna back off, but they've done a lot of chip damage to the tower, and they don't fall prey to the Cloud9 smoke gank. They do not have a smoke now for 3:22 actually was the time on that.
And that was so huge. You need the smoke comeback mechanic, and C9 were looking for that fight, but they don't really have the best way to get back into this game. Their own jungle isn't safe to them. Once again, Midas still isn't completed on Bone 7, and the levels just aren't there. I pointed out earlier that their supports weren't finding any levels. In the 9 minutes between them, since I brought that up, they've gone, what, 3 levels? between the two of them. And
they just don't feel safe. They just don't feel like they can get active on the map.
Run into they are going to make their move now. There's a fight breaking out of the Radiant jungle where Aggressive gets Fiend Script, but the hook's going to cancel. Well played by XC as Aggressive marches back, but he's trapped inside of this ground. This will be a gigantic kill, and they're zapping all the damage. Eternal Envy looking for vengeance here. Will he be able to finish him off? Aggressive does fall. It's 3 wiped down for CDEC all of a sudden. Gigantic fight going their way. Garter wanted to catch the Big Daddy IO right before the relocate ends there, but not able to do it. He'll get back to the tower, and now they move on to the Roche pit. So Cloud9, after feeling like they had absolutely nothing all game, a beautiful Fiend Script sets up what could be a completely game-changing fight. That's going to wipe out about half the lead here of CDEC, give an Aegis to Cloud9 and give them some breathing room here in game number 1.
I can't believe CDEC was willing to take that fight. I think they just got a little bit too overconfident. They assumed that the fight was okay because they just had an overwhelming advantage, but you can't press into that, especially against a team like C9. It just feels like they have some sort of magic.
Shiki wants Big Daddy. He's got vision right now from the rocket. No, he's going into the pit, trying to fight this one out, but the Aegis will go onto Eternal Envy as they look for an organized retreat. Shiki still nuking them on the way out. XC able to snipe Big Daddy there. The hook shot wasn't even required. Laguna onto Misery, also on the run. The hook actually goes to the north where Fada gets trapped. 3 hero track takedown. Immediately Bone7 heads top. He wants to split push this and slow it down, and they're not done just yet. Misery still being pursued. Shiki gets slept. It seems Misery may live to fight another day. They do hang on to that Aegis for Eternal Envy, but it's going to cost them a tower. CDEC getting some track hold right away, even after the Roche.
And CDEC are going to be really satisfied with that fight. The fact that they were able to get away with anything there when it looked like C9 was just going to get a clean Roshan. But CDEC making the correct choice. They've almost got a BKB on Aggressive, and that's going to change a lot. He's opted to go for such a move speed oriented build on top of the Quelling Blade, which will allow him just free mobility. And C9, what do they really have to match that? They've got a BKB coming up on their Dragon Knight, level 2 ultimate. I think this is C9's timing, actually.
So it looks like it's going to be an Orchid as well for Bone7. He's not quite there yet, though. So when you say it's their timing, what does that mean? Do you push the bottom lane in? Do you go for a smoke gank again? What's your general approach here, C9?
I think you go for a smoke gank, try to pick off somebody, and then start to play objective-based Dota. What's the point of the mech? I guess you sort of deny the mech or the Aegis advantage from CDEC, but at the same time, you need to get something from this. You have to start to establish map control again at some point, and Envy's kind of gone for...
He's gone very tanky here.
Is so mid-game oriented.
He will get the Solar Crest. I feel like almost always this is the support item, especially considering that in some ways he's kind of become the one position hero for the team. May change moving forward, but he's adapting to the game, and Eternal Envy really feel like I just need to get as tanky as I can now. Hang on, give Bone7 time to come online and really bank on our global lineup. Try to outmaneuver CDEC more than fighting into them head on.
But who would get it on their team? The Bane can.
Yeah.
I think he wants to go for the 4-staff.
Fada would have loved to back in the day, but the mana cost is a little too much even for him.
The Dragon Knight absolutely needed the BKB, and the smoke is picked up on the Wisp now, and I think this is the timing. You've got a BKB.
Oh, this might not be the timing. They're going to find the Nature's Prophet here. Big Daddy has the defensive relocate. Will it even come out in time? Not even going to try for it. Just the quick TP away, but no! Big Daddy is denied by XZ, and Shiki cleans him up, and now Eternal Envy could be next. He may die twice here. He's stealing all of Garter's damage. He's pinning himself out. They have no buybacks in either global hero. He's now diving towards the enemy well, just stalling this and running from a pack of angry wolves, but they'll kill him off once. They've got the track potentially ready to come out again. Garter sets up. They've got Cogs in position. Eternal Envy, no static lake. It's going to be the death of him once more. Aegis caved in. CDEC not even giving up a single objective to that Aegis. And all of a sudden, an extra 1,000 gold into their pockets as Aggressive is primed to pounce on mid. Looking for the initiation here. Call down. Shiki does have the Yule Scepter, and that's going to force out the BKB. No way to kill him off now, but that's his 10-second BKB charge immediately used
when
up.
at top, Bone7's getting initiated on.
Beautiful pick. Q with the solo kill, it looks like. Just did it all by his lonesome, even though Rocket from XZ wasn't required. By the time it arrives, Bone7's already hit the dust, and that is a scary sight when an enemy 5-position support is able to snipe one of your cores like that.
The problem right now with C9's lineup is that you have these core items. You've got the mech, you've got the BKB, you've got the Solar Crest. In an ideal world, you would have wanted to push with those items. What are you really waiting for if you're C9 anymore? You've got the smoke up available on Big Daddy No Tail's inventory, and there's not really one item that's going to change their fortune anymore.
It's just not really C9 Dota to play that way. Like, if you told me LG, oh, here's the hook, on again and again, it's been XC, finding out Big Daddy, he can't even try for the tether away. It'll get instantly interrupted, and now Shiki with the monster kill, picking off the Bane of Misery. As CDEC are the ones to group. They're the team that wants to fight 5v5. I just feel like Cloud9 aren't comfortable with this style of play.
It felt like they went for something different. They wanted to go for that 5-man style that we're not used to them seeing. We usually see Envy play those ultra late game heroes where his team is able to fight without him.
The Phantom Lancer, the anti-mage especially as of late. Even Gyrocopter, kind of a nice hybrid.
Yeah, exactly. But in this game, CDEC was just so thorough. They saw C9's lineup and they said to themselves, okay, that really relies on opening up space. If we allow ourselves to get picked off, maybe there's a chance that C9 win this, but they just completely played on their side of the map. They went for intelligent smokes, and they just forced the issue on C9's turf at all times.
Well, you can see Bone7. Cloud9 have been in these games before where they're down a lot early, and even towards the mid-game, this team does know how to rat, and they may get something for free here. The Courier gets sniped, and that's the Guardian Greaves down. Pretty big item to pick up. Will be delayed here for 3 minutes. This Bone7 TP's out, but no! XC again with the hooks, just butchering Bone7. He's caught on the periphery of the cooldown, and again he falls. He does get the Courier, and he is slowing down the game, and it's really what they need to do, but man, it still cost them. As Eternal Envy moves up, he's tracked up right now. They have a Winter's Curse available. He's hunting forward. They've relocated Fada in. They get eyes on the Garter with the dust going through. He mechs himself. He tries to run a bit further, but he can't make it out. Eternal Envy getting something out of this. The relocate now done. And Envy on the run. He doesn't have a TP. Oh, Envy, you need your TP quickly, my friend. He's going to go for it. Do they have a way to cancel this? No hook shot available. The Yules, oh, they got him with the stun. No TP, no way out. Down again. Not the first time that's happened to Cloud9, but man, it really hurts.
I mean, they decided to go for some sort of fight there. It didn't start off good when the Nature's Prophet gets picked off, and right now everything is going CDEC's way. Shiki is just causing chaos around the map. He picked off the Bane earlier by himself. He finds somebody in the river. He's level 16 at 27 minutes in the game. 12 Bloodstone charges on him. He's just being a monster this game. And once he goes to the Aghanim Scepter, I don't even know if C9 has the damage to take him down.
You go back to the EG series versus CDEC. In game 1, they leave the Lina in the pool, but they pick it third for Sumail before CDEC can get their hands on it. And then they 5th ban Shiki's TA. So he was forced into an uncomfortable position. I believe one of the games he played Dragon Knight, the other game Bloodseeker. But he wasn't on his comfort heroes. This game, he's on his comfort hero. Aggressive is on his comfort hero. XZ's on one of the offlaners he prefers. Everybody's getting to play what they're just best at on this team. And you could see the synergy really kicking in now. They're up by a lot. It's almost 17,000, 18,000 gold advantage that they put together. A 15,000 experience lead. The warding's pretty deep now. There's one ward way out deep in the Radiant jungle. They've got a decent lane ward up towards top, and they're controlling the map surprisingly well, considering there's a Nature's Prophet as well as an IO in the same game. And now they get, oh, they might have gotten eyes on Big Daddy there with the rocket coming in. He's going to tether back quickly. They look for the retreat. Seems they will escape for now, but C9 are running for their lives.
And right now, they have one smoke on them available.
Bone7 in the top lane. He's been caught out by Aggressive. Caught out's going to come through. The Sprout not going to be good enough. He's dead to the rocket barrage. Punishing every Cloud9 movement. They might even go for Eternal Envy top. That'd be a bit too far to go.
There's just been so many solo pickoffs for CDEC this game. The Lina's found a few of her own. The Gyrocopter finds one there. We saw the Winter Wyvern get one by himself.
They're going in. They're going in once more. Here's the track. The follow-up stun comes through Misery. No chance for a brain set. They didn't even need the Laguna. Brutal.
C9 is just being gutted right now. There's no real way for them to come back into this game. They don't have the lineup for it. And right now, CDEC recognize that and are just applying the pressure left and right. And C9 heroes are just getting picked off solo pretty much.
It's having watched quite a few of this team's games, it feels like if they get their normal drafts, it's really tough to split push against them. Probably the biggest game that comes to mind is the aggressive Slordar game, where Vici tried to rat it out with the Tiny Wisp, and it was just punished at every turn. But now we go again for CDEC, over and over, diving in, the BKB deployed, and aggressive rating supreme with Shiki, just doing all the damage in the world. He's still got a Laguna Blade. He can basically pop Bone7 instantly, but he's holding the ultimate, looking
from Misery. Right in the kisser. And then the Bloodstone denied as the Laguna goes out. Even that one kill denied to Cloud9. They are being given nothing here for free. Q may get caught. No, doesn't seem like it's the case. It's Eternal Enemy in danger. There's no relocate. The Wisp is dead. He's trapped. He's down. CDEC just rampaging forward. And it's GG. A team that didn't even have a guaranteed slot at the main event has just taken the first match here off of Cloud9. Wildcard team, no longer this team has a shot at going deep if they can keep it up.
That was just clinical. CDEC didn't really make any huge mistakes. That one time in the jungle, maybe that was a little bit of a mess up, but they just allowed C9 to wear themselves out. C9 tried to abandon their game plan and say, okay, we're going to go for the split push game, but so many solo pickoffs were enabled by that Winter Wyvern, by that Clockwork, and I mean, C9 just weren't able to keep up.
Where do you feel it went wrong? Was it the draft for you? Was it the execution?